This is the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast on the internet, only on the internet, not on satellite, not on terrestrial, not on cable networks. Continuing the look at the British press, this on metro.co.uk, running the front page story on Tuesday, the 2nd of September 2025. I'll be safer in Somalia. This is a theme that is based on the corruption of the British media, which is propagating the corruption, multiplying the corruption of the British government, of the British state, of the British parliament. Based on the fear inflicted by itself that Britain is being overwhelmed by migrants, and most specifically by migrants crossing the channel between France and England in small boats. This is the hysteria that is ruling the regime. Government by hysteria, because rationality, reasonability, truthfulness, objectivity are all driven out, pushed out by the hysteric reliance on hysteria and insanity. Hatred, intolerance, hostility, corruption. And this is the Financial Times of the same date, Tuesday, the 2nd of September 2025, which has got a long read, international big read, FT big read, international business about the Nigeria-based company called the Amazon of Africa, which is struggling. This is the outlet. Well, this is the piece in the Financial Times. If I can get it, this is the one. The struggles of the Amazon of Africa. And I read part of it in a previous edition. And it's about the company called Jumia. And it's the partial examination of Africans being connected to the internet. E-commerce makes up only a small fraction of retail in Africa, even accounting for less traditional channels such as Facebook and Instagram, where many on the continent make purchases online. That is partly because people in the markets served by Jumia have simply not become more affluent as the company had hoped, etc. Then there is this piece in the Financial Times of the same date talking about Israeli banks planning to give away to ease criticism. What is this giveaway by the Israeli banks? Israel's biggest banks are planning a range of measures to provide financial relief to customers, part of a scheme introduced by the central bank to cool criticism of profits lenders have made during Israel's war with Hamas in Gaza. Israel's consolidated banking sector has generated high profits for several years, but the returns have become controversial since the start of the war in 2023, which has strained finances in many Israeli households and small businesses. And that is the item next to it is the headed Brazil. Bolsonaro trial close to finish amid US spat. Now, Bolsonaro's trial is coming to an end, and his allies think that he's going to be condemned. Yes, former President Jair Bolsonaro's allies say he expects a guilty verdict from the Supreme Court trial. Supreme Court placed Bolsonaro under round-the-clock watch at his Brasilia gated community last week after police alleged he had considered fleeing to Argentina for asylum. And then there is an international piece about Sudan. Sudan atrocities recorded by satellite as 500-day city siege nears its end. So all these items are apparently occupying the substantial, significant editorial content pages and spaces in the papers. But they are lies because the interconnection between the big business and international imperialist capitalism and the consequent wars and hunger and starvation and desperation and conflicts in Africa, for example, and in Asia are concealed. They are not, the interconnections are not examined, they are not detailed, they are not acknowledged. And in the United Kingdom, the hate that Theresa May, the conservative, the hostile environment had conservative had created against the Jamaican people, the Caribbean people, is being repeated against the migrants by the so-called Labour Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, who has halted asylum family reunions. This is the Times version of it, on the 2nd of September 2020. And this is the Times front page where Narendra Modi is shown in Peking. This is the handshake. Grip. Who is gripping who? Is Modi in Putin's grip or Putin is Modi's grip? And the papers continuing the anti-Trump and pro-Modi commentaries. And then, of course, there is this latest display of Angela Rayner doing a photo shoot. Further questions for Rayner on 40,000 pounds stamp duty reduction. And then underneath that, Keir Starmer telling activists, don't devalue flag. We have one at home. The fact that there is a question mark about this item, the jeweler disappearing owing 170 million pounds, will police step in? Why should there be a question whether the police will step in or not? The fact that there is a question shows that there is no policing. And there is this piece in the Times saying that the asylum seeker from Sudan is deemed by the Home Office too depressed to be deported back to Sudan. And William Hague says Trump's clueless diplomacy is a gift to Xi of China. And the ADHD is ruining politics. Our screen addicted culture is shrinking the ability to focus on long term serious issues, and that affects government. Exactly. The battle for our attention, waged by different technologies, platforms, and content, has transformed politics, economy, and society, mostly for the worse. We are overdue a movement aimed at helping society take back control over how we allocate our attention. This is written by James Kanagasuriam. Now, what is he described as? James Kanagasuriam is Chief Research Officer at Focal Data. Focal Data. So this is short attention spans are ruining politics, which is a rare piece in the context of the lack of content, in-depth analysis by the newspapers, including the Times, which carries this piece by Kanagasuryam. And the editorial, the first editorial of 3 in the Times of Tuesday, 2nd of September 2025, says Keir Starmer's Downing Street shake-up is confirmation that his first year in office has been a failure, but swapping personnel alone will not fix all his problems. Angela Rayner faces ever more scrutiny and allegations of hypocrisy over her property portfolio. It is long past time for Sakia to lead. Notwithstanding any court orders, he must ensure that where possible the Deputy Prime Minister, tax and financial affairs are in order and fully transparent. Household hire, household, he should heed. It's not household. He should heed the concerns of business as his new advisors prepare for the budget. And he should give his latest spin doctors a detailed answer to the question of what, if anything, he truly believes in. Well, he doesn't believe in anything. And there is this piece in Markets and Business. Emma Powell Tempest, buy, sell, or hold, today's best share tips. And it says, weird isn't wonderful for Mask EVS. What does it say in the beginning? It says, even Elon Musk has had to admit that the investment case for Tesla is not what it was. The American electric car maker, an early mover in the mass EV market, is in a weird transition period. Its controversial chief executive told analysts as it unveiled the steepest drop in quarterly revenue in more than a decade in July. That transition has been forced on Tesla by the end of US tax incentives on electric cars, shifting tariffs, and regulatory uncertainty around self driving vehicles, while demand has also faltered. Come in. Come in. Sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry, what are you saying? I can't hear you. I can't understand what you're saying. Sorry, what? I can't understand what you're saying.
When I'm outside, I think so. I want to do that pressure.
I thought you had left already.
I've left. They're short of stuff, so I'm just trying to get rid of
Yeah.
that. Okay.
You can take any. So you haven't got a key to the door.
No, because I'm not on duty now, so I didn't get a key.
Is it too bad reading?
No, it's okay. The reading is okay.
Okay. So going back to the issue of electronic vehicle and Elon Musk's admission that Tesla is not doing very well. In fact, the forecast is gloomy. What is she saying? This is the person who has written this, Emma Powell Tempest. In time, Tesla, once considered unique in the car market, could find itself struggling to stand out. Again, this is not a truthful analysis because it doesn't represent anything whatsoever about the users. Anything whatsoever about the users, their vulnerability, the reason why they are tempted to use any of the vehicles, any of the items, any of the goods produced. And she is described as Emma Powell Tempest is described as the person who is going deep into buying, selling, or holding today's best share tips. That's what she's doing. She's a tipster on shares and distributing Tesla's shares by the quarter. And there is a heading against the right wing. Melanie Phillips. Parts of the MAGA movement are nudging young white men towards wild conspiracy theories. That is Melanie Phillips admitting something that she has actually been responsible for, admitting the criminality of racist right wing conspiracy theories. Nigel Farage will this week testify to members of the United States Congress about threats to freedom of expression in Britain. He will be pushing at a door that's already wide open. Many US Republicans believe that Britain is all but finished, having given up the central, I'll read that again, having given up the cultural ghost in the face of mass immigration, Islamization, and liberal ideologies. Such Americans won't entertain the slightest shade of nuance in this belief. For example, they refuse to accept that although there are deep, I'll read that again. For example, they refuse to accept that although there are indeed troubling examples of double standards over free speech, Lucy Connolly, jailed after posting that she didn't care if asylum hotels were burnt down, wasn't a political prisoner. She was instead rightly punished for encouraging violent racial hatred. Something that Melanie Phillips has been doing for quite a while herself. For these US critics, any such attempt at balance marks you out as a fellow traveler in the attempt to destroy Western civilization, even if you oppose mass immigration, Islamization, and liberal ideologies. She speaks about herself in that piece, in that sentence. And Melanie Phillips typically contradicts herself in the last part of her column on Tuesday, the 2nd of September 2025. Far from being an antidote to imperialism, liberal universalism is itself an imperialist project which demands that everyone conforms to its precepts. Melanie is introducing another dangerous contradiction. That's why it is so profoundly intolerant. That's why it insists that its anti whiteness, anti maleness, and anti Western nation dogma cannot be challenged. That is also another misinterpretation by Melanie Phillips. And the result of that has been the creation of populist parties like Deform, the election of Donald Trump, and the emergence of the dank right. Trump, an old style social liberal who rose to power on the back of the revolt against liberal universalism, doesn't know how to deal with the dank right because it has such traction within the MAGA movement he founded. The Western nation is far from perfect, but if conservatism is ever to recover its mission of conserving what is of priceless value, it must ditch universalism and be put back together with the nation once again. Again, this is a contradictory theory by Melanie Phillips. And the Kapil Komireddy has been given a front page piece to defend Narendra Modi in the context of the campaign by the Western media, especially the New York Times, the Financial Times, the Telegraph, etc., that have been propagating Narendra Modi's line against Trump's attacks on India. And this is summarized by the opinion piece given by the New York Times International edition to Kapil Komireddy, which says that the country, that is India, must decide whether to go all in with a capricious Trump or hedge its bets through a rapprochement with China. And the Daily Mail continues to propagate hostility and hatred against migrants. 3,567 in, 0 out. And there is a news about the death of the boxer Joe Bugna. And there are the two pieces of hatred against migrants. One is the losing control of Britain's borders, is continuing from the front page. And the second one is Westminster sketch by Quentin, the crooked, racist scum. Let's. And Elon Musk is again given platform as a dictator dictating Britain and carried by the Daily Mail. And Little John the Liar says Britain is on the verge of serious unrest over mass migration. That is a lie. Yet all Labour can do is to rearrange the little jackets, life jackets, on the small boats. And the Daily Mail says on page 10 of Tuesday, 2nd of September 2025, that the court order is stopping Three Pairs Reina from revealing more about her house deals, says number 10. And there is another piece on page 11 talking about the contamination, noise contamination, raising risk of having a stroke. And on pages 12 and 13, there are two-page spread about Rachel Reeves being sidelined in number 10 relaunch. While Labour insiders are telling me this is a grim news for the Chancellor, that is Andrew Pierce. Dominic Lawson said that the real reason why the late Brenda, the Queen, worried about Brexit. He says that the Windsors' long standing fear that social unrest could spark revolution and end the monarchy. And Nadine Dorries reinforces Camilla's propaganda. And the mother of a victim of a drug addict, cannabis addict, killer, says one day he will walk free and restart his life. My daughter will never have that chance.